some stuff supper. I don't want to eat it all. Too much supper.
Not Yisrael.
How do you stay?
All right. We have to be very good. Have important Gemara tonight. Very fundamental. I went to a lot of new things today. We are on Daf Mem Beis Amud Aleph, and we're going to learn a contradiction. Last week, for Thursday, we had this kind of Medrash Pliya Gemara, which says that Shmuel was told that Malcolm Pita is goyreim, that you go after the bread, because he said there's an Eser D'Rabbanan to be motzi above 10 tefachim. And we don't understand what exactly it meant. Nobody understands exactly what it meant. So what one thing has to do with the other. But the bottom line is that Shmuel holds that you go at Malcolm Shvisa is determined by that which is above 10 by wherever your bread is, not wherever you sleep. Okay. Now we're going to have a contradiction to that. This contradiction is 3, 6, 8 lines down on Mem Beis Amud Aleph. Shmuel Amar Hu barav uvnei bosam abesom arvim b'kikorecha. Shmuel has said, now the way Reb Chaim Kanievsky explains it, although it's obvious, is that this is talking about, Shmuel says, when he and his sons and the members of his household all sleep in one house, they can all use one loaf of bread to make the Eruv. Meaning that they're all joined together by virtue of the fact that they sleep in the same house. Ma plige? So does that not argue on what Shmuel said previously, that we don't go by the way they sleep, but rather by whether they eat together or not? Now I have to tell you, to be completely intellectually honest, that Lieberman here says that there's something funny. He says normally when the Yerushalmi wants to say there's a contradiction between a person with one statement he made and another statement the same person made, it says Machalfa Shitase. He switched his opinion. But here the language uses Mao Plige. So the Farshim learned that it means the same thing here, but Lieberman has difficulty with that, again because of the language used, so therefore he kind of changes the Gemara. I don't like what he does with it, in order to make it a question on the Mishnah. Because he wanted to say that the Gemara is not asking for Shmuel on himself, again, because the wrong language is used, but rather it's a question from Shmuel on the Mishnah, or from the Mishnah on Shmuel. But that's not the Pashut Pshat, and nobody else learns like that. Everybody learns a straightforward question. Shmuel said previously we go out by where you eat, and here Shmuel seems to be saying we go by where you sleep. So Tamar Malcolm says Gemara, Mal Plige, Tamar Malcolm Piton, there he said the place where your bread is. Here he says the place where you sleep. So the Gemara answers a very interesting answer. The Gemara says that really what it means is that each person can give half a loaf. In other words, really you go after the place where they eat. However, if they're all partners, they can participate in giving a loaf of bread together. Now it says Gemara, what? The Taya Kaidamar Ravacha. I'm sorry. First Mark says, "V'saya kaidamar Ravacha Rabbi Zira ma'arvin chatzi kikar." We learned that this is going like Ravacha. Rabbi Zira said they can make it here with half a loaf of bread. So each one here can give half a loaf, i.e., they give a loaf together in common. Says my wait, I understand. We learned to the Mishnah that says you can't use a tremendous loaf if it's cut. How can you say that each one can give half a loaf? But so he responded, you can't use half a loaf literally. But when each person gives half a loaf, that's okay. That's what Shmuel is saying. If they're all partners together in sleeping, even though they're not partners in eating, they all have to give. Where do they not each have to give participate? Where they are partners and where they eat. Where they're partners and where they sleep, they all have to give independently. But they can all give as part and parcel of the same loaf of bread. You don't give half loaves as per Eruv Chatzeros. That's only where each person is giving a half loaf in and of himself. Or the sum total you're left with is a half loaf. However, if you're giving a large loaf, of which part of it owns one person, part of it belongs to another person, that's okay, and that's what we're permitting. Okay? By Shemnichem Bos Eruv, a house where you put the Eruv. That's for our Mishnah, that there's a house in the courtyard where you put the Eruv. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha Dam Chasimi. Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha, his mother died. Now either his mother died, and according to the Korban Eidah, he wasn't allowed to teach Torah because he was an Avelus, and therefore the following Gemara is going to be taught by somebody else, not by Rabbi Yaakov Bar Acha. Or, according to Reb Chaim Kaniev's interpretation, he didn't have enough time to put an Eruv, to participate in giving a loaf of bread to the Eruv because his wife died against Erev Shabbos and he was up the creek. He didn't have enough time to get together bread. So I'm Rabbi Yasser Revo Tanila. So Rabbi Yasser said to Rabbi Yevo, teach us the halacha. Again, either because Rabbi Yaakov Rachel was an Avelus, or because Rabbi Yaakov Rachel had a Shiloh. The Tanila, and he taught him, Beis Shammai Osir Beisil Matir. Shammai says, if you put the bread into a house, that person is still forbidden to use the Eruv unless he participates in giving bread himself. Beisil permits it. Beisil says as long as it's in his house, he doesn't have to give the Eruv. Why? The logic being, the only reason why people give bread is to become partners in common. But they become partners in common in one of the houses, the house in which the Eruv is placed. So the logic dictates that the house in which the Eruv is placed does not have to participate in giving of the Eruv. That's Beisil's logic, because they are the house. It is the house in which everybody else is centered. So what does he have to participate in giving bread for? Okay? Is that clear? Everybody else gives bread and puts it there to become part and parcel of his household. But his household, this is his household. He doesn't have to give bread. So that's what you can do with Rabbi Yaakov Baracha. They can put the bread in Rabbi Yaakov Baracha's house. Okay? Now, Rabbi Nuna Amar.
Because it's his house, he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
That was, in this case, it was b'diavad, but they're saying it's even.
Yeah. Oh, you mean Beisil Matir, where that's l'chadchila b'diavad? That's a very good question. Some Mepharshim want to say that the Gemara is actually going to go on to discuss that now, which I don't see. I'm not sure how the Gemara would go on to discuss that, but you're right. So this Matirim sounds like it's even l'chadchila. That's actually permissible. Are you waiting to ask a question, or you're just listening in? Okay, fine.
Carbonata does say b'diavad.
Yeah. But to others say the Matirim sounds like it's l'chadchila. I don't remember exactly who says what, but I believe that the concept is l'chadchila. Says the Gemara, Ravi Nuna Amar, now, Ravi Nuna said that the house which you put in Eruv, Enot Tzorech Klum, doesn't require anything, right? Which is Mashmi L'Chatchila. I guess it is. That does go on to discussion. My mistake. The question is whether it's L'Chatchila B'diavad, and Ravi Nuna says obviously not. He doesn't have to do anything. Rav Chizdoi Omer Nasa Keshuta. Rav Chizdoi says at least the Chatchila he becomes like a partner, and a partner has to give bread. Now this is a very interesting nomenclature. Partner would mean he's not the host. He's either the host. If he's the host, he doesn't have to give bread because everybody else is like a guest by him. If he's a partner, then he has to give bread as well. Because if he's a partner, so he is no better than anybody else. It's not focused, so to speak, on him. So therefore, he's got to give also. Okay? Amalei Rabbi Nuna said, the words of the rabbis do not permit you to hold of your shita, Rav Chisda. I'll prove to you that you're wrong. Tispalgu, fast saying machlokes, we had in the Bible already. Mavli shetzido echodaku. You have a mavli, one side of which is a goy. Now, you got here a goy. You got here Jews. There's a mavli in the middle. The Jews are more than one. Now, whenever there's more than one Jew, you have to schir reshus from the goy. When don't you have to schir reshus from the goy? When it's one-on-one. Why? Because milsa lo shchicha. Generally, one good Jew will not live with one goy in a courtyard because the goy will kill him. Then all the Jews protect him. So in that case, you don't have to do schir reshus, where there's more, because it's not a prevalent case. In a case where there's more than one Jew, they protect each other, so they will continue to live that way, and they will learn from the goy. So in that case, we say, Rabbanu or Goyzer, you have to be social reshus, you have to go and rent out the courtyard from the goy, right? But of course, that was the reason for Zakara. Once the Takara is in place, so we utilize whatever loophole we can get, right? So now we got multiple Jews who live in a courtyard with one goy. If we could somehow make all those Jews one, there are 500 Jews, make them legally one entity, so they won't have to do schir reshus. Why? Because that makes them all one-on-one again, right? Great trick, right? So let's try and play the trick. On one side is a goy. On the other side is Jews. Rav Chuda b'shem Rav Amar Irvu derech psachim. If they made an Eruv among themselves, because they have doorways that interconnect between each other, they're still considered to be multiple people. The goy forbids them; they still have to do schiras rishus. However, Rabbi Yochanan said, "Afilu irvu derech hachalonos." Now, the word "afilu" is a thorn in everybody's side here. Everybody is not sure what to do with the word "afilu." I don't know. Reb Chaim Kanievsky goes to major contortions to make the word "afilu" work out. I don't know, and he changes all the girsos except the word "afilu." I would just take out the word "afilu." What it means is irvu derech halonos. Let's say that the Jews don't have courtyards, don't have independent doorways going into the Mabui. Well, rather, one Jew has a window opening into another Jew, and they make an Eruv through their window. And the other Jew has got his opening in the Mavui. So that even though technically speaking there are two Jews next to each other, they're still considered like one. Why? Because the Jew who's behind doesn't have frontage on the Mavui. The frontage on the Mavui is only that of the goys. Only that of the one Yisrael. So therefore it's like one-on-one, and there we don't need schiras rishus. Now, if you put in the word afilu, the way Chaim Kanievsky explains it before going to the contortions, he says that maybe you can explain it like this. He says, you might think that in this case, you should be even more cliche, should make people be so rishus, because if they're so intimately connected by windows, then certainly the Jews are not going to be afraid to live together with the goy, because they're within mamish, whisper distance of each other. So therefore, in that case, I might have more reason to be quiet. No, as long as they're only through the windows, and the frontage on the Chamav is just of the one, the Chatzar is the one Jews, you don't need schiras rishus. That's what it means to say.
So every different psachim refers to there's more than one entranceway to the
Chatzar, or to the batim, to the houses actually. To the houses on the Chatzar. It's house on the Chatzar. I get mixed up. It's houses on the Chatzar as opposed to Chatzeros on the Moabit. Okay?
In this case,
Oh no, you're right. I'm wrong. It's Chatzeros on the Moabit as opposed to houses on the houses on the house on the Chatzeros, right? Because the Moabit should see the Racham. I wasn't thinking. Yeah.
in the previous case, when they all made an Eruv, all the Jews together, why aren't they considered one corporate entity? To be one.
That's exactly the point we're going to make. So the Gemara's point here is that Rabbi Nuna says, Rabbi Chizai said, Nasa Keshutaf, that's like Rav. Because Rav says that even though they all made an Eruv together, they're still shutfim. Meaning they retain their independence, right? They're partners with each other. And that's why it's like still like multiple Jews against one goy. Because a corporation is a partnership. It's not one entity, it's a partnership. It's a partnership with limited liability, but it's a partnership. Whereas Rabbi Yochanan says Rabbi Nuna is on my side. Because Rabbi Yochanan says if we made an Eruv together, so then we become not just one corporate entity, we become one unit, as one. So therefore, in that case, as we are now more than a corporate entity, we are one. That is why, vis-a-vis the guy, it's one-on-one, and we don't have to do schiras rishus. Okay? Rabbi Yochanan said again, we're in the middle. I feel here with their chalonis, ein akum ma'Yisrael, the guy does not answer them. Now, in tamer b'shutafu yesar. We're going to say he's a partner. Why should he not answer them? He certainly should answer them. He's a partner, so it must be that it's not a partnership. I feel bad, but I don't know any kid in the high school can come over and understand this out of the blue. So, don't know how I could have explained it to make the guy, they can understand it. Rabbi Yaakov needs a lot of background in Eruvin for this. Rabbi Yaakov, I don't think in high school I could have imagined that such sugyas like Eruvin exist. Okay, Rabbi Yaakov Baracha. Rabbi Yasa, the Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, do you want to take a Gemara, or you're just sitting here? What? We're letting you show me. There's a Gemara over there on the front, over there. What? On the front shelves, there's a Gemara which says Yerushalmi Moed on it. It's lying down there, I think. Doesn't give up. Take the other one. Take the big one. Eruvin Daf Mem Dalet on base. We're about to Mem Beis on base. We're about to start a new mission in a couple of minutes, but right now we're still in the middle of a topic. Rabbi Yaakov Barach, Rabbi Yasser B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, the third line down. B'nei Movi shenos le'eruva b'shnei makomos. The people of Movi put their Eruv in two separate places. Now, this is not literally two separate places because they have to be in the same house, right? They have to be to put the Eruv and everybody has to put their piece of bread together in the same house. However, what it means is they put it in the same house in two separate kalim, in two separate vessels. In other words, let's say there were 10 of us in the Movi, 10 of us in the Chatzar, and each one of us gave a piece of bread. So it didn't all fit in one vessel, so we put part of the piece of bread in one vessel and the other in the other vessel. So it depends what our motivation is. Imi bli makom is because there was no place in the first vessel. Harei mutter, that's okay. However, in bishvil achloke ruvan, if they're doing it with the intention of splitting up their Eruv afterwards, in other words, we're putting it in separate kalim, so I know where mine is and you know where yours is, and after Shabbos begins we can split it back up again, also. Because what is an Eruv supposed to be? It's supposed to unite us. And if we each intend to take back our own piece of bread selfishly after we finish making the Eruv at the beginning of Shabbos, then that's not a valid Eruv. Rabbi Yahusa, now there are many interpretations in this line. I like the Reb Chaim Kanievsky interpretation, very beautiful interpretation. It says, Rabbi Yahusa, Mekil law, he would curse, who Damar, I know he would berate, those who would say, equal to who, the Rav. My role, equal is a role, my role was the Rav, was the big one. Whereas I want mine back, because my role is the big one. So if you berate the guy and say, you idiot, by doing this you cancel the whole Eruv. Because Eruv means that we really give our bread as gifts to each other. By your saying mine is the big one, I want it back, you're undermining the entire concept of an Eruv. Okay? Right, that's where there are many other interpretations of this Gemara, because you never find the word eagle used as bread elsewhere. Granted, I told you there are other interpretations, but that's the one which works out the best, because it really links the previous Gemara with this Gemara. Otherwise, you have very strange things here, which are said over here. Okay, says the Gemara, Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Bun mevarach alav elei b'leili shabso. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Bun used to make a bracha on the bread from the Eruv Friday night, because of course the Eruv works Friday afternoon at twilight. That's when the Eruv acquires the right for everybody to carry in the courtyard. So he used to make a bracha on it Friday night after for Shabbos meal, loy meshanasa bo mitzvah, because already did one mitzvah, so you do another mitzvah with it. You did the mitzvah of Eruv Chatzeres, you do the further mitzvah of making a moitzi on it. Tamati, we learned over there, you always make the Eruv in the old house because of ways of peace, meaning I never switch houses. Once the Eruv was put in one house, that's where it remains for all time to come. Because otherwise the guy's going to get upset. What's the matter? You don't trust me anymore? Or are you afraid that I'm going to eat your Eruv? You know, that's not fair, it's not right. You have to continue keeping it there in order not to cause machlekes. Rabbi Abun said, "B'dayer yashnu masni." So this bride is talking about where the same guy lives there. The old guy lives there. If the old guy went away, a new guy moves in. That doesn't apply. There's no darkei shalom. The whole concept is to leave it by the guy who always is trustworthy, not to change, not to impinge on the trust we placed in him. No. You're not wrong. This is the Yerushalmi. The Bavli, you never find darkei shalom for among Jews. Right, it's always among Goyim. Right, but here it's used among Jews. It's a good point. I didn't realize it, but you're actually right. All right, I have to see further in Yerushalmi whether we get to other sugyas where it's used for among Jews to maintain the pace. Made it through the rain, huh? You haven't melted. Chavesh Chatzeros. You have 5 courtyards. Psucha zulazu. They're open to each other. Upsucha samav, and they're all open to the mavli. Iru chatzeros l'nishtadfu v'mavli. Now each of the chatzeros made their own. All the courtyards made their own eruv, but they didn't make a meshita from the mavli. Now remember the scenario. You have a large alley. Around the alley are courtyards. On each courtyard there are houses. Okay. So you have You have a mavui, the alley, and then you have the courtyards, and you have the houses around it. So then, in that case, when you're dealing with that, so you have to have two separate things on Shabbos in order to allow carrying. In order to allow carrying among the houses in the courtyards, you have to have an Eruv Chatzeros. In order to allow carrying from each of the Chatzeros into each other through the alley, the Mavli, you have to have Shitufei Mavos. These are two separate things. Rabbanan hold you combine them. Rabbi Meir, who's the author of our Mishnah, holds you may not. They have to be two separate things. Now, besides that, there's another element, which is that Shitufei Mavos could be with any commodity. Wine, oil, anything, as long as the food stuff. Eruvin Chatzeros have to be with bread, specifically with bread. This is going to be critical. This is going to come up a lot in our Gemara. Okay? So we have Chamesh Chatzeros, you have 5 courtyards, Psuchos Zulazu, they're open all to each other, Upsuchos Lamavli, and they're open to the Mavli. Eruv Chatzeros, so they made an Eruv among the Chatzeros. V'lo nishtarfu b'Mavli, they didn't make a Shituf in the Mavli, even though the procedures are similar. Mutarim b'Chatzeros, they can go around the courtyards, they can go through the courtyards and around the Mavli through the courtyard, but they may not go through the Mavli itself. Okay? Vim nishtarfu b'Mavli, if they also made a Shituf, oh well, didn't take long. I hope it wasn't something I said. Vim nishtarfu, yeah. I don't know the guy who sat down here, but the guy who came over is a very bright kid. But I guess they're chavrusa. All right. So, they're allowed to carry in both places. Now, let's say they did both procedures, but one of the members of the courtyards forgot. They didn't participate in the Eruv. In that case, mutarim kan v'kan. In that case, we say we gloss over that guy. We let him go. And the bottom line is that people can carry, even him, the shituf which he participated in. Now this is important. He forgot to participate in the Eruv, but he is a participant in the shituf. So the fact, although he forgot the Eruv, the fact that he's participating in the shituf allows him to carry. That gives him dispensation. Again, because he forgot. Had he intentionally only participated in the shituf and not in the Eruv, would have been up the creek. He would have had to be Mavata Rishus and wouldn't have had the right to carry at all. But since he did make the shituf and he forgot in good faith to participate in the Eruv, we give him a buy for that Shabbos. Okay? What if a member of the Mavli forgot and wasn't mishtatef? Mutarim b'chatzeros v'asurim b'mavli. Now, if what happened is you forgot to do a shituf and you did an eruv, so then we don't say the eruv counts for the shituf. We're only one-way street. If you forgot to do an eruv and did the shituf covers the eruv. But if you forgot to do a shituf and did an eruv, the eruv doesn't cover the shituf. Is that clear? So let's say you have a guy who actually has frontage on the mavli, and he did a shituf, but he forgot to do Eruv Chatzeros. I'm sorry, the exact opposite. Guy was frontage on the mavli, and he did Eruv Chatzeros in his courtyard, but he forgot to do shituf in the mavli. He forgot. Good faith. The same case like before. So he's only mutter in his chatzer, and he's not mutter in the mavli. Again, a guy who forgot to do Eruv Chatzeros but did shituf, we give him a buy. We say it's if you did both. You can carry both the chatzer and the mavli. A guy who did Eruv Chatzeros but forgot the shituf, we don't give him a buy. He can only carry the chatzer, not in the mavli. Shituf is more comprehensive because it more public. Right. It doesn't cover both, but it's more public, as Dr. Spellport. Okay. Says the Gemara. Says the Mishnah. Shamavi l'chatzeros k'chatzer labotem. Here we say the mavi is more public or more pronounced in its parameters because the mavi is vis-a-vis the chatzeros like the chatzer to the batim. So therefore, the shituf, which takes place in the mavi, which is the ultimate commonality, that's a more significant transaction. Says the Mavi, now reiterating the Mishnah. They are forbidden the Moavi, because he said that the Moavi is vis-a-vis the courtyard, it's like the courtyard is vis-a-vis the houses. Now, in this case, so they're open to each other, and then they're open to the Moavi. Right, so therefore they have an option. They don't have to carry through the Moavi, they can carry to each other on the side. Whatever, what if each one is open? You have like a railroad flat arrangement. You have one chutzner, another chutzner in front of it, and a Moavi in front of that one. Chutzner, Moavi. Okay, the back chutzner is open to the front chutzner, which in turn is open to the Moavi. In that case, afilu irvu asuros. In that case, even if they made an eruv, each one by itself, they can't carry it all. The outer, actually, the one which is closest to the Moavi can't carry. Why? Because I'm Rabbi Yossi to Rabbi Akiva. It's like Rabbi Akiva. The Akiva madrisis aregalo seres. So since the inner one has got to get through the outer one to get you out to the courtyard, so then the outer courtyard, even though it made an eruv, by itself cannot carry until they make a common eruv between the inner one and the outer one. Why is that? Because each one by itself is, although if they're all scattered around the Moavi, and each one made one independently, each one can carry in and of itself, right? But that's only because each one is independent. But if one is behind the other, so the front, the one which is in front, closest to the Moavi, is obviously the place where the inner one walks, and therefore they are subordinate to the certain sense of the inner one. They must participate with the inner one, otherwise the eruv is not valid. Okay, Eruv v'chatzeres v'loy v'nishtat v'moavi, Armish, which says you need both. If you made an eruv in the chatzer and not in the Moavi, so then it doesn't. No shit in the Moavi, it doesn't work. Matznisa the Rabbi Meir. Armish is like Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir said, "Ayidei eruv, ayidei shituf." You need both. No kol Rabbi Meir, like we learned a couple of blot ago. Repeat it here. Everybody holds like Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Zia, Rabbi Shem Reho said, "Av Megillas Esther nagu kol Rabbi Meir." Also Megillas Esther, everybody was knowing like Rabbi Meir to read the entire Megillah on Purim. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Shem Reho said, "Shem Rabbi Lezer." Let's skip. With Rabbi Meir Eruvin u'Tayis Sibur, and by Eruvin, which to require both shituf and eruv, and by Tayis Sibur to say duchening in Mincha, and by Ne'ilah, also everybody nagu kol Rabbi Meir. Yes. Two blot ago. Yes. Right. Here it isn't either. That's the point I made 2 days ago. It's not great, it's a nagu. Okay? Especially because here is machmir. And we never pass him like a machmir no say. So therefore so we have to say nagu. Okay?
They don't refer to it as that.
No, but that's not always true in the Bavli either. It's only from time to time. It might happen here in the Yerushalmi too, just we haven't noticed it. Rabbi Yaakov Hashem Rabbi Yochanan said, Hashem Rabbi Eliezer, Avgad Rameir Ma Yesh Pitrushus. Even though Rameir says, of course, there's Pitrushus if you forget to participate. Modashim Shal Echol Man Below Erev. However, you can see it's a kula that if just one guy forgot and didn't make an eruv, so then he participates, he relies that he's on a shituf, right? We learned that in the Mishnah. Shusmelcha shitufo. Mani Slay Aidei. Mani Slay, and how do we know it's going like Rabbi Meir, our Mishnah? Because Mani Slay Aidei Eruv Aidei Shituf, our Mishnah clearly indicates that even though there's no Eruv, even though he forgot Eruv, he participates in Shituf, which indicates we're talking about a scenario where you did both. Who's the one who holds you need both? Lo Rabbi Meir, it's not Rabbi Meir. To Rabbi Meir Amai the Eruv of Shituf, right? It's Rabbi Meir who's the one who said that, so it must be that our Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. So if that's the case, there's an implied question here, although the Gemara doesn't make it explicit. The implied question is, since our Meir requires Erev Shituf, why do we give him a buy? If it's so necessary to have both, so why do we let the guy go? The fact that he forgot to participate in the Erev, just because participate in the Shituf, L'maiser Meir requires both. Tough. Let him be Mavat Rishus. Let him lose for the Shabbos. Why do we let him get away with it? So you'll say, well, how about this? We let him get away with it because Nishkir Felach. Daki Shalom. No, Yerushalmi has a better answer. What the reason why Meir required both Erev and Shita is because you're afraid. If you don't require both Erev and Shita, people will forget there's a concept of Eruv. And they won't realize that if you have a Chatzir without a Mobley, you have to also make an Erev. People think, oh, until you did it, a Mobley. They won't realize that a Chatzir also requires an Erev. So therefore he was afraid people forget, so he always required both Erev and Shita. So he said, how are people going to forget? Everybody made an Erev except for this one Shlomazel, right? So here it's not a problem. Where people on Mas people forgot, that might be a problem. That in fact the more we'll discuss. But where just one guy forgot, there's no problem of being Meshakeh, Chilchus Eruvin. That's why you give him a buy. Because everybody else knows, and they'll know he was just a Shlomazel. Okay? Rabbi Achon, Rabbi Hila, Yeva Kichad Minon. One of them the Mishnah works out like. I gotta tell you before we learn it. This is Machlokas. We're going to learn Machlokas, Rabbi Hila, Rabbi Achon, Rabbi Hila, and Rabbi Shrameir works out like one of them. The question is which one? Lieberman says it works out like the first one, and Reb Chaim Kanievsky says it works out like the second one. Because Yerushalmi just says it goes like one of them, it doesn't tell us like which one. You like the first opinion we're about to learn or the second opinion we're about to learn. So I like Lieberman's chat better here, so I'm going to like Lieberman that it goes like the first one. But you could say it's not hard to reverse it and say the exact opposite of what I'm going to say. Okay? The Yeva the Chaimino goes like one of them. What's their machlokas? Chaimino no Amar. What is the reason why you're afraid that Shema Tishtaka Chilchus Eruvin? Shema El Chotzer Sheina Tzricha Shitu. Because maybe the Chotzer where no Shituf is required. The truth is, I already poisoned your mind by telling you what I told you really why. It's obvious why I'm going to learn like the first case. I already explained it that way very nicely, as you'll see. We're afraid it's going to go to Chotzer which there's no Shituf is required. Eizu Chotzer Sheina Tzricha Shituf. What's Chotzer which no Shituf is required? Zu Chotzer Rogelis. It's a Chotzer which has access. Now the way Reb Chaim Kanievsky explained it, although I don't know why he has to say that, he said it's about we have a Mavui, a courtyard, and then another Mavui. And it's Rogil in the second Mavui. It normally goes out, that courtyard normally is the second Mavui. It doesn't have to go to the first Mavui, right? They don't go normally to the first Mavui. It's Rogil in the second Mavui. So in that case, it requires to Shituf in Mavui number 2 over there, and not Mavui number 1, because Mavui number 2 is its normal case. So in that case, it doesn't require Shituf in Mavui number 1. So you don't require Erev Chatzeros in that case. People are going to think you don't need the Erev at all. You don't need anything. Because people don't see the Shituf, they don't see the Erev, they don't see anything. Because the people Mavui number 1, they don't see Shituf, they don't see Erev, they don't see anything. They say, oh, the Okatzav Erev is undermined. So therefore you require an Erev Chatzeros, so even though they don't see a Shituf in Mavui number 1, they at least see an Erev and understand something's going on. That's the way of understanding Reb Meir Shita. Now I would just interpret Chotzer Rogelis much more pashut. L'zatui, I'd say Chotzer Rogelis means, by the way, there are other interpretations here. The way I interpret it is a Chotzer which has no Mavui. Chotzer which has no Mavui. It's Rogelis means you walk right out from the Chotzer into Rishus HaRabim. Right out from the Chotzer into Rishus HaRabim. So there you don't require Shituf, right? There's no Mavui. So you might think, if you don't require both Erev and Shituf, in that case people might think what? That there's no Mavui, nothing is required. So therefore, where we have a Mavui, we do make both Erev and Shituf to remind people that even if they come to a Chotzer Rokeles, which goes directly out to Rishus HaRabim, they need an Erev as well. You don't get out without an Erev. Okay? Is that relatively clear? That's the first opinion. Why Reb Meir was concerned that Shema Yishtaka Chilchus Eruvin. The other one said, let's get that he's going to see them making Erev and not a Shituf. Abu Savar Lamar Shema Erev Moed B'lo Shituf Vein Erev. You might think, oh wait, 1 second. He says they're making Erev without a Shituf. According to the way I explained, it should say he sees them making. No, it should be making a Shituf without an Eruv. Should be a shituf without an Eruv, not an Eruv without a shituf. Let's see if we change. No, so the... Yeah. Yeah, but the problem is if we don't make a person do both, then he's going to go to Chatzar Rogelis and make what mistake? Well, that's okay in a Chatzar Rogelis. Right, so I think I have to learn like Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Now I realize why he said what he said. Because the language, according to Mishnah Reverse, what he's talking about a case where why it requires shituf even where there's an eruv. Because otherwise people are going to think where if you see only an eruv, not shituf, then people are going to say that in a case where you have a chatzar rogeles, a chatzar which is on both mevos, that you only need eruv and not shituf. Oh, it still doesn't work out well. $6.20. Yeah, I got to learn like him because of the gear, so I got to learn Chaim Kanievsky. So it's Chatzar Rogelis. Chatzar Rogelis means you have a Chatzar which has two mavos, one on either side, and you're going to go if a guy would just see an eruv without a shituf, because eruv works without shituf, so he would say that all he requires eruv and not shituf. I still don't see how it works.
Maybe since one mother is used, the other person is one is that you don't need to make shituf on your own. That's not used.
Yeah, but what's the mistake which you're going to extrapolate from to somewhere else? What's the mistake it's going to extrapolate from?
Unused mother doesn't require shituf.
Yeah, but how's he circumventing that by doing both? Because you're still only going to do one of these two mevos.
But you still need a shituf even and then unused mother. Because you might think.
Yeah. I'm wrong, that's why. I got mixed up. It's not one chatzah with two mavos. It's two mavos with two chatzeros. And one of the chatzeros is open to two mavos, and one is not. Okay? There are two mavos next to each other. There's a chatzar in between and a chatzar over here. This chatzar in between, it opens to both, but it normally goes out this one. And it doesn't go out this one. This chatzar, of course, always goes out this one. All right? So in this case, you don't require shituf. Yeah, but this is going to make this. Now, if I explain this way, then Rav Chaim Kanievsky is going to be right. You have to go like the first. Then this is not going to work out for Rabbi Meir. It's not going to work out. It's going to be bad. Darn, I'm stuck. I'm very tempted to change the gears so here.
When in doubt.
See, if I just change one thing, I'm fine. Shituf moya below Eruv. Ve'ein shituf moya below Eruv. Even I change, it's still a mess. It's a mess. How does it require? What's he going to see and what's he going to be afraid? What's going to happen as a result? Let's try it literally. Let's see how it works. We'll see. I have tremendous negias here, but I'll try and do without them. Let's try it again. One of them said, "We're afraid if you don't make it do both." What does the Korban say here? I don't like what he says either. Let's try it my way one more time, see if it works. It's a chatzer which can walk in and out directly with just a rabbi. Which, well, he sees an Eruv without a shituf, right? Avu savar lomar shema Eruv moed below shituf. So he's going to think by a regular mavui that an Eruv works without shituf. Yeah. Ve'ein Eruv moya below shituf. And Eruv does not work without shituf.
I guess the bottom line is that you have to look at the culture and say, this is the chutzner, we didn't have to make a shituf. So we're going to think of all the time that chutzner does not require a shituf. In fact, most chutzers are intended to work with this. You would have to have a shituf.
Right, that's what I think is going on. But really, what's happening here is the chashash is that what we're really saying is that I might say, I think I have it. I think I can make it work now. Not too much of a sledgehammer. I might say Eruv doesn't require shituf. Whenever I do an Eruv, I don't require shituf. Eruv actually is better because Eruv uses bread. It's better, right? So in one respect, in the procedure. So I might say Eruv never requires shituf. But I don't want to allow that. Because if I allow Eruv then the people forget this concept of shituf altogether. And that's bad. Because what's going to happen, people are going to go to their achatzet, which don't require shituf. A chatzer ogelos, for instance, doesn't require shituf. Because it goes directly out from the chatzer into Rosh Hashanah. So you're going to see they don't require Eruv. Then you come to the Mavli. And you're going to say, in the Mavli also, I don't require shituf. Right? Because it's a combination of factors. This is where I'm going to use the sledgehammer a little bit. It's a combination of factors that I see that very often I see by this chatzer ogelos I'm only doing Eruv anyway, right? And very often by Mavli I get away with Eruv by itself also. So a combination of factors that by chatzer ogelos I only require Eruv, and by most mivos, by many mivos I only require Eruv and not shituf, that will lead me to forget the entire concept of shituf. So a time will come when I'll be in a mavli, which is adjacent to a chatzer. I'll make a chatzer in Eruv without intending to cover the mavli, and I won't realize that the mavli requires shituf as well. I'm going to forget that. Again, Rameh required wherever there's a mavli that there dafka has to be shituf, because if there's no shituf, then people are going to come to a misconception, say just like a chatzer ogelos only requires an Eruv, so to a mavli where you intended to cover the Shmavli with the Eruv works, and therefore, even if I didn't intend to cover the Mavli with the Eruv, it should work as well. And they're going to forget that you need Shituf. They're going to forget that there's the concept of Shituf, which is independent. Now, again, that's what I think we can say here with the least amount of dochak. Let's see that inside again. Eizu Chatzar Sheyitzir L'Shituf. Shemin Chatzar Sheyitzir L'Shituf. Eizu Chatzar Sheyitzir L'Shituf. Zu Chatzar Ogel. So Chatzar which can go directly after Shusarabim. For rows some Arvim V'lo Mishayim. You see, they don't need to do Shituf, right? Avu Savur Lamar Shemeir V'lo Shituf. We got to the conclusion that Erev works without Shituf. Vein Erev Moed V'lo Shituf, and Erev does not work without Shituf. The other Mandomer said, Shemeir Chatzar Shekvar Shituf. Maybe you go to a Chatzar where the Shituf already occurred. They already made a Shituf in Mavi before doing the Eruv Chatzeros. V'roe el-son ma'arvin. No. V'roe el-son, the Korban changed to. V'roe el-son lo ma'arvin v'lo mishtatfin. They're not doing Eruv and not doing Shituf. Now he is afraid of the exact opposite. That they already did Shituf, and that Shituf is covering the Eruv, and that therefore they're not going to do. He's not going to see anything. He came after they did the Shituf. Before they did the Eruv, they're not going to do Eruv. Because if you don't know the Great Meir, because the whole Shituf suffices, right? So it's not going to see no Ma'arvim lo mishtatfim, afu lo ma'arev lo mishtatev. So he too is not going to do any Eruv nor any Shituf. He's not going to do anything. Now let's step back a minute and figure out which one's going to be Meir or our Mishnah. We're trying to figure out which one is going to be Meir. It says if one guy forgot to do an Eruv, it's okay, it's covered by the Shituf. If one guy forgot to do the Shituf, he's not covered by the Eruv. Okay, that's what our Mishnah said. So we're trying to figure out which one of these two it's going like. So the first one holds that Eruv works without, what's the fear? The fear is that if we don't require both, that people are going to forget and only do Eruv and not Shituf. The other Mandomers are fearful that people are going to not see any procedure and not do either thing. Neither Shituf nor Eruv. So which one do you think Reb Meir is going like? Again, the first man is afraid we're going to think you just have two Shituf. Just Eruv and not Shituf, because he never sees any Shituf, he only sees Eruv. He says by Chatzar Gels Eruv, and he sees by Mavi Eruv, he's going to forget the whole concept of Shituf. The other man is afraid you're not going to think you need anything. Because they'll come after the Shituf and they're not going to do Eruv, so he's going to think you don't have to do anything at all. So why is it going like the first?
Because our concern is,
Yeah.
So the first case, it's a matter of the second case, if you worry about the ultimate Meir should be not getting out, should worry about anything.
No, but they're both explaining. See, but they're both explaining Rabbi Meir. They're both going to explain what a Meir's chashash is. The question is like, which one of them can we be moichel if one guy forgot? They're both going to explain Rabbi Meir. The question is like, whom can we moichel if one guy forgot? But they're both going to explain why Rabbi Meir require both. One says because you don't require both, people are going to be on the misconception, all you need is Eruv and not Shituf. The other one, the Omer says, if you don't require both, people are going to be on the misconception, so you don't require either. Neither Eruv nor Shituf. Because they're going to come after the Shituf, before the Eruv. Who's it going like? No, sir. I thought I understood it so well when I prepared this morning. I'm so upset. So I think it's going now. I really think that it's going to Chaim, the second man dormer, because the second man dormer who says we're afraid that he's going to forget and not realize that you need shituf and eruv, so that he can get away scot-free. So that if that's the case, we can excuse this guy who did one and not the other, right? He did an eruv. He did a shituf. He forgot to do eruv, right? So he knows that there's a concept of shituf. He did do it, right? He forgot to do the eruv. So let him go, because we know he needs something. We're not afraid he's going to forget altogether and not do both. But according to the other mandomer, the first mandomer says that the fear is that he might think all you need is eruv and not need shituf. So you might also come to the conclusion that all you need is shituf and you don't need is eruv, right? If you forgot and did one and not the other, then you might come to the conclusion all you need is shituf and not eruv. Okay? Is that clear? No, right? I don't know what to do. Again, it's my own fault. I apologize. Not even because I'm tired. Just I got it wrong. The first opinion holds that we're afraid he's going to think you only need one and not the other. It would be much more glad if I changed the girsa, as I was tempted to do, and said we're afraid that the guy's going to think that all you ever need is eruv without sheet. That he goes to that when he goes to a chatzar rogeles, it would be much better the other way. If I said all the guy thinks the way it is in the Gemara, he's going to think all you ever need is eruv, you don't need shituf, right? That's the way it is in the Gemara. It would be much more glad if I did it the other way. If he would think all you ever need is shituf and not eruv, right? Then I could say, well, if you think all you ever need is shituf and not eruv, right? So, no, it's not going to work that way either. No. Because in our mission to participate in the shituf, he forgot to participate in the eruv, right? So we really would need a case. Right. But we don't have. That's not the case. The case is here. The bottom line is like this. It's getting later in. I have to at least finish this case before Marv. The bottom line is that the first case he forgot one and not the other, right? And still we're afraid that he knows one. We're afraid he's going to forget the other, and that's why Meir made his gesera. The second opinion is that we're afraid he's not going to know either one, because it's going to come after the shituf, and they're not going to do eruv. So again, the first Amora was afraid he's going to think you need one and not the other. The second Amora is afraid he's going to think you're not going to need anything, right? So our case in our Mishnah, where we let him go if he knew you did one and not the other, right? That can go like the second Amora, because the second Amora is afraid he's going to forget both. Well, here he's for sure not going to forget both, because he did participate in one of the procedures. So that's why we'll let him off the hook, right? Because at least he knew you did one. As opposed to the first Amora. The first Amora says, that's precisely the point. I'm afraid he's going to only think you have to do one and not the other. Only eruv and not shituf. So therefore, how can I let him off the hook if he did only shituf and not eruv? Maybe he'll have the exact opposite problem. That he'll always think you only need one and not the other. Okay? Okay. We only did a blot tonight. Oh boy. Sorry.